Ah,
Uh, uh,
good evening, everybody. As we come in laughing like the Count from Sesame Street. And
uh.
welcome to Death Scenes and Cemeteries. Um, I'm your host,
Yes,
Raymond Newsom. My co host and sister from another mister, Renee Cody. We are on Sunday night because, well, tomorrow night I work. So, adaptations had to be made. And at least right
exactly.
now, we still have, everybody can see us instead of the screen going black like it has before. I don't know what that
Exactly.
was, but we said screw it and went along with the show anyway. So,
See what happens.
hush
That's
your
all I can
mouth.
say. Just,
Hush your mouth.
shh. I'm gonna be quiet. I'm not gonna say anything.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna share us out. All I'm
Okay.
gonna do. I'm gonna
Um,
share us out.
and tonight we are carrying on with our conversation about the Atlanta kids murders that took place in the early 80s. Well, late 70s, early 80s.
Yes.
It was from July 79 through 1981. And even though they call it the kids' murders and stuff, they actually had two adults involved that were
Mm-hmm.
found,
Yes.
which were actually the ones that, got Wayne Bertrand Williams thrown in prison. Those were the ones
Yes.
that
That
he
could be
was,
tied to him.
yes, that he could be tied to 100%.
100% tied to him. But the
And
others, mm, iffy at best. In personal opinion. Make sure we state that personal opinion.
yeah, this this is a lot of speculation and personal opinion as far as the case goes. And still reading through the FBI files, which there's a lot that's blacked out as well, which is very common for FBI files that have been released to the public. Um,
Through FOIA. Anyway, but
yeah,
yes.
same thing with CIA files. They're there, but there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things missing. So
Exactly.
you know, and I'm trying to wrap my head around a few things as far as this case goes, because yes, he could be completely connected to the two men that were murdered. One of them he was actually seen holding hands with in public right before that one disappeared.
Yes.
And that gave me some Homer vibes
Mm-hmm.
as far as that situation goes. And if that's the case, it draws into question the two female bodies that they found. Because if he was actually more homosexual, then those would not be his flavor.
No, they wouldn't be.
Um, which is also going off of Jeffrey Dahmer because he preferred men.
Mm-hmm.
He killed men and little boys. Most of them were, teenagers into mid 20s. I'll
Mm-hmm.
say most of them because I'm not going to get into more details on that.
Exactly.
If you don't know
Because
that
that one.
case and stuff, that I don't know where you've been. So
Exactly. You've been under a rock then for that one. Absolutely. Um, there's a lot to unpack. Um, you almost have to remember, which for me is a little easier than Raymond. That time period. Um, it was a whole different kind of time period back then. Um, kids were out, kids were running around, had to be home when the street light came on. You know, you're talking Atlanta. And that's like what I wrote down. you know, about Atlanta in itself, which made me think of, you know, you think of Atlanta, you think of, there's four historical black colleges that produce a lot of smart people. Um, you know, Atlanta is I dare to say it, Wakanda like in some aspects right now. They got a lot of things. They got the airport. You had
Wakanda.
Coca Cola come in. You had the Olympics come in. You know, it's a mecca. It's you don't think of it, like you do of the '80s. When it was just up and coming, and the mayor was trying to get all these companies, especially that airport in, which is a big influence for that place at that time. Um, you know, this case, I mean, is on a couple things: politics, greed, and yes, I'm even going to say racism in that time period, because where we are down south, there's a lot of puzzle pieces and a lot of moving things in this case. That once you think you've got a direction, it goes left real quick, or it goes right real quick. So
Yeah,
yeah.
because there was a lot of puzzle pieces and a lot of players and stuff
Hmm.
in the situation that nobody found where they fit.
Nope.
Even with the victims themselves, there are situations where nobody found how they fit into that scenario of Williams.
Exactly. I mean, other than
And
which everybody knows him as, the geeky kid that liked music and used to host talent shows to that age bracket of the victims.
yeah,
So,
but also something you said backstage before we got started, I found interesting as well, is I want to preface it with he had been in trouble once before as posing as a security guard, well, as a police officer,
well, his
and
his car, they called him an ambulance chaser, because you have to
yeah,
remember what was his side gig, and his father's side gig was taking video for the news, like shooting the B reel and then shooting a freelance photographer. So a lot of stuff in that time period has his name attached to it. If you were watching the news, like a house fire, and he's recording stuff. So I mean, why not have the lights and sirens and all the things on the car? You got to get there,
yeah.
right?
I mean,
So.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but also the fact that some of the kids that did not go missing said that it was an African man dressed
Yep.
up as a security guard.
Because there
And
there were
it's
ones
real
that got
easy to
away.
switch patches. It's real easy to switch
Really,
patches.
really ding dong.
Yep.
Especially, he one of the eyewitnesses accounts to one of the murders. It's a blue car. Well, he drove a blue car.
Yep.
You know, um, but everybody knew him. Everybody knew him in the neighborhoods, is because why? Doing the ambulance and chasing. He was always there. Had to be the forefront. Again, kind of tying into some other ones that we've talked about that have this fatuation with being something of purpose and having meaning, and
Yes.
having and something that matters.
It's having your name known.
Hmm.
It's that acknowledgement.
Yep,
Interesting.
it is interesting. And
But
think about it.
also,
Go ahead.
oh no. finish your thought. Think about it.
Yeah, because, I mean, and also too in that time period, you know, I remember Stranger Danger. Who are you supposed to go running to if somebody's in trouble or somebody's trying to kidnap you or snatch you or who's bothering you, harassing you, following you home? You're supposed to go run to people that are going to protect you.
Yes.
So, so now these parents are hopefully, saying that, while this is going on, which it eventually it was you don't go outside, you can't go here, you can't go there, the buddy system, all this was going around. But to think about the fact that these kids maybe went running to him thinking, because he was in his security garb, thinking that he's a uniformed police officer, I'm safe with these people. That's what's even scarier about this.
Oh, definitely. Especially since they would straight up start walking hand in hand, a whole collection of kids.
Yep.
That way they were all right there together.
Hmm.
And it had to be somebody they knew, somebody they trusted to be willing to take and get in that car with them.
Exactly, because some of them did. I mean, Yusuf Bell did. The one that's out of all of them, which he was a really bright student, like in you know extra classes. We'll just say, like, very bright. He gets into the car with no problem. Some of
Yeah.
them, they're seen getting into a car, or they're seen with somebody, or seen talking to somebody. Which a lot of the documentaries, things that I saw in that file, they don't mention on a lot of the documentaries,
Yeah, no.
which makes you go even scratch your head even more, because I'm like, why wouldn't you bring that up? Why wouldn't you say this? So,
And once again, I will preface that, this is all our opinion, our speculation and such. We're just
exactly.
getting what we're picking up from what we've read.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that really caught my attention was the the MO. You know, not all these people, not all the kids and stuff died in the same manner.
Mm-mm.
And some of them were so different and stuff, there was no way that it was the same person. This is just
Exactly.
purely behavior and doing the analytical thing and stuff that the FBI would do in that
Mm-hmm.
situation. They would take a look at it and say, well, this doesn't fit because it's not exactly the same. The
Exactly.
behavior's changed and it wouldn't change that much. One was stabbed multiple times, and there's no way that was in direct connection to the common MO, especially the two
Exactly.
that were pinned on Williams. The two
You
that were
know.
pinned on Williams, they were adults. I can say it. They were asphyxiated,
Yep.
so they were basically smothered, probably with some kind of plastic or plastic bag, if not strangled. You know,
Exactly.
and not all of them fit that.
No.
And considering that
You
the
know.
majority of them were males, means that the females definitely didn't fit the pattern.
Absolutely. Especially with the one that was found. One one was SA'd and one wasn't.
Yeah,
There's that. One was propped up and bound to a tree with somebody else's panties in her mouth,
yeah.
and I think not even wearing the same clothes. I might be getting that one confused, because I know one other one, there was a clothes issue too.
That may have been one of the males. That was
I
one of
think
the
so.
early victims
Earlier ones, yeah.
wearing somebody else's clothes. But
Hmm.
there's also the one that took and fell off the bridge and snapped their neck, which also does not fit. The very first one was shot, which also
Yep.
does not fit.
Which, looking into the files on that one, the first two, how they came up with this, I'm going to say it, story to put us solve it around it is, that is Ed Smith and Alfred Evans.
Yep,
So supposedly Evans may have been unalived by Smith's friends because it was a drug deal gone bad. I mean, who's to say? You know what I mean? But that's what they pinned on it. Because he was shot with a 22, but
yep,
the bullets were never recovered. Interesting.
yep.
That's interesting. So it's like, oh, there's no forensics on the bullets. So
And also the
and
fact that there was a member of the KKK who came out directly and said that they were going to off one of the victims.
yep, I think
So,
that was Bell. I think that was Yusuf Bell because he
yeah,
ran into his car. He ran into his car or his van with his go kart and scratched it.
yep.
So that's why we say that there's other things at play that are even dark and mischievous in Atlanta at that time. Considering the time period, yes, you would think the time period, yes, but the Klan had a big presence in that time period down there.
They sure did.
Sure
And then
did.
there's still the two that are completely missing.
Yes.
So this list is dwindling fast.
Mm-hmm. I mean, granted, yes, everybody knows if you've done your homework and that yes, in 2019, did they open everything up, pull it all off the files, the files off the shelves from the Keisha Bottom, who was the mayor of Atlanta at the time, because she remembers it. She was like 5 or 6 years old, and she remembers her mother telling her, "You're not going out. You're going in groups. Like you're not going anywhere far because of what's going on." So she has a vivid remembering of that time period. Um, so um, and she just wanted to do something to me. How did she phrased it in that Netflix? Lana's missing. She wanted to kind of wipe the stain off of Alana, but she knows that she was up against a hard way of doing it. So, she assembled a task force. They pulled everything off. They're looking at it with fresh eyes. You know, one of the ending scenes in that documentary is they've got all the kids' faces up on the wall with their sheet of paper of last known things and who ties to who. And she's quoted saying in this, when this is going to come to light, there's probably names that are going to come off that list that everybody goes, know that name because of this, that don't fit it. And there's going to be names added because there's cases probably that fell through the cracks
Yeah,
because they wanted such a case going. Oop, we have fibers, we have this, we have dog hair, slam shut, slam dunk, done, because they just wanted it closed and off their books.
they're
So,
like, all right, cut here,
mm-hmm,
move on.
exactly.
So if any of them even disappeared after that time, or even during that time that never turned up and stuff from different neighborhoods,
Mm-hmm.
nobody knew. because
Exactly.
it was mainly
We,
focused on like one or two neighborhoods.
you know, because like we had said last week, they when they started interviewing people and canvassing the neighborhoods and saying, "What did you see? What did you hear?" You know, how did you like how did you know this? Like, you know, their neighbors. How did you know this person? Oh, well, I date his cousin, and how a lot of the families intermingled, which was I think that threw a curveball at them too, because they were like, wait a minute, but you're in that low income housing because that's where a lot of these kids lived. We're in low income housing, you know. Um, One thing that I took away from it that I had never even known until I looked at these FBI files. Earl Terrell. um, the parents are so poor that they don't have a phone, but their neighbor has a phone, and it was a phone call at midnight at the neighbor's house. So the neighbor went and woke them up and said, "I got a guy on the phone saying he's got Earl." So by the time she got there, of course, it's dead air, you know. But this person, according to the files, called back and they received two more phone calls stating that they had Earl and that they wanted $233.33 by Friday. Don't call the cops. Don't get nobody involved. Just get it to me by Friday and you can have Earl back. I never knew that. I never knew there was actual on one of these there was a ransom.
Yeah,
That came,
which
guess
does
what?
not fit the MO,
Yeah. You know? So
which actually sounds like somebody owed somebody money for something they should probably shouldn't have even had in the first place. Cough,
exactly.
cough, drugs. Um,
Yep, call.
because
You
why are we
know,
getting that specific?
exactly. Cuz I mean that's a Pacific dollar amount. $233.33. That's, you know, it's, like $150. Like, but that,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, and then and of course they called again and said they wanted that money by Friday. These people are poor. Do you think that that family could have raised that money by Friday? Think about that mother, and she heard that, and that mother's, if that mother is still alive, because again, some of these parents, they are still alive,
yeah,
and brothers and sisters of these victims are still alive. So, not only that, let's just say let's just bat this out of the case,
honey.
and go for the fences on this one, on how crazy this case is. I brought it up to Raymond. I said, "You gotta love it." They were looking at the zodiac at one point with this because there was a zodiac type letter, and all that's in the FBI file that you can see is "Hello, it's me." Dot dot dot. Haven't you? And I'm sure is miss me. And I could get why they would think that's zodiac ish, like, but this doesn't fit anything zodiac.
Yeah, because he used a 45
Mm-hmm.
and would go out
You
in
know
broad daylight and left them where
exactly.
they
I
were.
mean,
He didn't hide anything. So the
exactly. I
fact
mean,
that
in
a
some of
lot of
these
these kids were dumped in the woods and stuff, or
in the
dumped in the
woods,
river,
by dumpsters. Um, Yusuf Bell. The reason why I go back to him is because he's the age I teach. So it's like, so tomorrow when I walk in, I'm just like, oh my goodness, like how little they are. You know what I mean? And just to think that this big bad creepy monster got him, subdued him, tricked him, got him in a car because he went to go run an errand for his mother. I mean, I remember this back in the day. You like mom would be like, oh, go to the corner store. I need a bar of soap, or go to the corner store. I need aluminum foil or whatever, and just would, here's the money and just go, pocket change and just go. I mean, I remember going to get cigarettes from my father at the corner store. Because that's when it's a small area like that, they all know everybody.
Yeah.
And Yusuf Bell, he was was found by a janitor outside going to take a leak in a hole in an abandoned school.
Yeah.
You know, by happen chance, he walked by and saw that. So to me, like, and some of these bodies, when they did find them, they were so badly decomposed. I know two bodies they could never even say what they died of because they were so
Exactly.
heavily decomposed by the time they found them. But I thought the Zodiac tie-in was, I'm like, okay, I get it. I get it. But then again, we have what? Copycats, you know? So, I mean, it could have been anybody. Could have been somebody playing a trick, The only thing that, like I had said to Raymond, that was remotely that it would be on my radar, thinking that it possibly could be, was that they had gotten um, in the mail, like it's a advertisement like you would get, and he person wrote on the back of it, "Please stop forced busing, or I will kill 3 more black boys in Atlanta in March." Which kind of turns back to the Zodiac did say at one time, on this day, I'm going to be shooting kids and buses. So, I mean, if that's what kicks somebody off going, ooh, maybe let's look into the Zodiac person for this. I mean, that's how wild and crazy this it started off with a bang with that
Yeah, because
theory.
at the time and stuff, the idea of serial killers was still relatively new.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they had a few big names before that and stuff, but the idea of one being just in one certain area, one certain city and stuff still surprised people all the time.
Yep.
A lot of them were just starting to take and actually make the news nationally to where people heard about them.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a whole situation, and let's face
It's
it,
a whole
like we've said, a lot of them don't tie in to the
a
others.
lot of a lot of them don't. You know, other things that I thought was interesting. The Latoya Wilson case. The one where it's the window that they have to push out because it's the older, low income housing.
Yeah,
Um, that the pane glass was removed. This person had to go into that room, be able to walk by two of her sleeping brothers, walk by her parents' room to get to her room where she was sleeping with her sisters.
and managed to get her out
And
without
managed to
being
get
heard
her out.
or seen.
But guess what? There was a witness, according to the FBI file, that saw the perp go back and forth through that window 3 times. And on the fourth time, that's when they saw her with him, the perp.
Yeah. Ugh. Did give a description? I don't remember.
They gave a description, but they also said it was also dark out, like dark male. With which is with a lot of them. A lot of them is, you know, you know, are that they see a black male with this person, or the Baltasar case. There was a white male in an old car that people saw hanging out by the dumpster where they had dumped his body.
Yeah.
See, so you're having eyewitness, like, there's young people, there's old people, there's and there's so much going on down there. You've got, I mean, at one point the FBI is instructed to look into a pedo ring that's going on in that neighborhood. I mean, the news station down in Atlanta actually went interviewed was a call. I think it was Uncle Tom. Uncle Tom, they called it Uncle Tom's cabin, and he was a known pedophile. And two or three of those kids, he goes, yeah, they come to my house all the time. So that's why I said this case takes. There's lots of twists and turnies and people to look at, and they had people. They pulled fingerprints. They ran fingerprints. Doesn't tell you the person's. Doesn't say their name, obviously, because that's redacted. But they were watching people. I mean, they pulled fingerprints off the two magazines that were um had to be magazines. Zines, you know. I mean, they pulled 24 different fingerprints off a magazine. 24 different in one palm. And of course you read of course you read I know where you're going with that. So stop it. And ran these, and they ran the fingerprints. They went and they talked to these individuals, and of course the individuals said they had nothing to do with it, or they had an alibi, or but they still tailed them for a little while, but then just they fell off by the wayside.
Yep. Which was
So,
a lot of what happened with that investigation. They would find a potential, and they would only watch for so long, and then they would switch gears or say, "Never mind, it's not them," and move on.
exactly. You know, and that's like what I said to you backstage. Could they have possibly had somebody, and because they didn't have enough resources, let's believe it or not, right? It took a long time for them to get enough people in there to help out, because you had the tips, you had the. I mean, they were. I want to say pulling at strings and grasping for straws, but I mean, obviously the tip line, they had recorded conversations with people that called in saying, hey, I got a tip or this or that, or a possible lead. Of course, also too, with those lines, I did it. And of course they're anonymous, so they're
Yeah.
listening for audio, they're trying to match voices up. It was a tedious case, and I'm sure a lot of those men, damn well they had kids that were that age too, so that had to have bothered them.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So,
And let's face it, they really didn't have enough manpower behind that kind of a search in that big of a city.
yep.
They they really didn't. So it was hard to take and cover everything. Especially pulling that many extra hours
Mm-hmm.
for the police and stuff, because the
Exactly.
police, they got paid by the hour,
Mm-hmm.
and they had so much overtime that they didn't have the money to cover it after a while, and they would have to stop.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so many twists and turns and so many roadblocks. You know, literally and and figuratively. I was
Yep.
looking for a different word, but figuratively works. Um,
Yep.
it just made this situation such a hard case.
Yep.
And
I mean,
honestly, the appearance of Williams was the only real potential break that they actually had.
exactly.
So I understand why they ran with it.
And I get it. I mean, you know, I mean, they like we said, twists and turns. I mean, they had a psychic Dorothy Allison show up, which then you know what happened with that after that first psychic showed up. So they had everybody and their mother down there saying that they were going to find those boys' killer. They had that. You know, then because of what's going on, and I just I just remember these guys. I mean, they were all over the news up here because New York's not that far away. I mean, the Guardian Angels showed up, man, to go teach those kids, hey, stranger danger. Like, you're not learning it from home, you know, but they were there to teach the kids, you got to walk in pairs. You got to have the buddy system. You got to tell somebody where you're going, and you're going there, and that's where you're going. You're not going anywhere else. You get somewhere and there's a phone, have some money in your pocket, call, say, hey, I got home. Or, hey, I'm at the arcade. Or, hey, I'm at the swimming pool. You know, contact
Pretty
somebody.
much.
I mean, the guardian angel showed up to help out. You know, um, and then there was a really in the middle of this. There's a daycare that explodes or blows up. They say it's a fault. They say it's a faulty furnace or boiler. So the parents are now they're outraged. Now they're even more outraged that something like this happened. And of course, now you're spreading doubt throughout the community. They're just killing our kids, and they don't care. So then you've got the vigilantes that come, because what are they trying to do? And that's what I do. I think about those neighborhoods. I think about because I grew up in the inner city, and you tend to 4 or 5 block area. You kind of know everybody, and because everybody's out and about, either walking to the store or walking to school or going here or going there. And you had a vigilante leader come out of it. Jenga, right? He was just
Yeah.
trying to do whatever he could to protect those kids because everybody's resources were thin. Everybody's. So
And there's just so much information to go through. Like
there's
I've
so.
I've barely even scratched the surface, barely scratched the surface with it. But like I said, it just keeps coming up. It keeps nagging at me that how many difference how many differences there are actually as far as the victims.
Hmm. I mean,
And yeah, I know MOs change sometimes, and sometimes whenever they first start and stuff,
hmm
they'll try something and it works, but it's not as gratifying, so they switch it to something else.
exactly.
But I I have a hard time believing that Williams is guilty of all of them.
Myself too. I do. And if you're just gonna base it, which they did base it, you know, they got the conviction on those other two, and then they started closing cases based on, I call it circumstantial evidence, because it's a fiber from a carpet
Yeah.
that, I mean, they were meticulous about it. They researched it, where it came from, went to the manufacturer, how much was made, where was it, where was it shipped? Was it to, obviously it was shipped to Atlanta. All right, so where, who was the person that was like who had the majority of it? And I think I remember right, they figured it out to 82 homes. 82 homes could have had that carpet. And it just happened that Mr. Williams went one day, bought this carpet, and put it in this house.
Well,
And
also it
then
was the combination between that. and the dog hair,
The dog hair. Yep.
because what they got from the dog hair and stuff, it was the chances of 1 in 100 dogs having a match to that. And
Exactly.
if they got it down to 82 homes, I doubt that other dog's going to fall into one of those homes.
Exactly. I mean, and they did do the mitochondrial part of the DNA, and it did end up going matching his dog.
Yeah.
You know,
So,
so they did do their homework on that. But that's, it's a green fiber that's found on this person and this person and this person and this person, because that's what they started to do with the medical examiner, because he was, and the guy that was pulling all the evidence off and then looking at it, he was categorizing it, like what they pulled off of where and what. And yeah, did a pattern come out of it? I mean, it's a pattern. You're by a fiber that, I mean, could have been anywhere, I guess, is how what they're trying to say, and the long his defense team, that always says, well, you're gonna close cases on fiber and dog hair, because that's what they did. They just started looking at the comparisons and said, okay, okay, that's his, that's his, that's his, that's his, and then just close them with his name attached, but not actually getting the due process and having the trial of it. They just closed it and associated it to him, which that just boggles my brain, but that makes my head hurt. That just does, because which is funny, because the guy that was doing the forensics had the FBI come in, and they were taking samples to Washington to do things at the Hoover building, which come to find out 2014 there was a big bombshell this happening. I remember this, that they came out and they said that it was an FBI whistleblower, that the DNA lab had been compromised for a very long time. And lots of cases were probably either going to have to get retried or overturned or whatever, because the DNA, because of just incompetence with people that analyzed it, or just being compromised, because it was, the one guy said that literally they would be doing work on something and the heat would go on, and you'd have all the fibers and everything come flying onto other things.
yeah.
So that, so I mean, and then you're shipping those fibers back to Atlanta, and there happens to be a green fiber that could have been, not saying it's all incompetence, but a lot of people are looking at it as that. I mean, and not only that, if that didn't help him and his cause to get a retrial, Atlanta does not want him out. They want him
No.
where he's at. They do not want him out. They He serves a purpose, and I guess closure. But it's not
Scapegoat.
closure. Scapegoat.
Patsy.
You know.
Need me to
You
keep
know.
going?
He solves a lot. He solves a lot of problems, because there's a lot of problems in this case. He checks the boxes of slam dunk, closed, done.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Back to the airport. Um,
Mhm. Back to that airport, back to that Coca-Cola coming in, and everything else, that all those other big companies and banks that went down there. I mean, you can look at Atlanta now. It's a mecca.
yeah, Atlanta's huge.
It's a very affluent, subsection of Georgia. I mean, think about it. You got Tyler Perry there now, Oprah. I mean, you think about it, just all of the things that are there.
Uh,
That so much success comes out of Atlanta. Think about it.
And
You
all
know.
because they decided to take and get that close as fast as possible so they could get all that in.
Yep. Because without that airport, is Coca Cola coming? Probably
No.
not. And I just use Coca Cola
Which,
as an example because that's like one of the
to
biggest
be
ones that are down.
to be fair, you know, that airport probably will have came in eventually anyway. It just wouldn't have been as soon as it did
Exactly. Agreed.
because there's not too many larger cities without an international airport now. So
Yep. Especially at that time period.
yeah, and that was one of the important things is Atlanta was trying to get a leg up to try to get things moving to try to help
Hmm.
turn the city around itself. And this was literally the thorn in the side that was preventing all of it. So we're going to make this disappear because nobody's letting it go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, as we look at other things and that through the thousands and thousands of pages
Oh Jesus,
that
it's
there
so
is.
much. It's so
Yes.
much.
There's so much.
There's
You know.
9 official parts to this file,
Hmm.
and when you download the PDFs, you get 24 of them. There's 24 different PDFs to download this entire file, and most of them are 100 plus pages. It's that much. So yeah, that's kind of
Yep.
why we were like it's going to take at least 4 weeks to go through this process because there's so much to it.
And I mean,
And it makes it even harder with the redacted information too of other potential suspects because
hmm
we can't even take and look those people up or see what we can find on those people because we don't have that information.
exactly. But if you watch the HBO Missing Children of Atlanta, this because the local PD was involved, this guy who's tasked with going through all these boxes, that's put in charge from the spearhead of you know the former mayor Bottoms. He's matching up things with descriptions with. So there are some names that are coming up,
Okay.
which where the Sanders family comes into play with the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah. So
And then
I'll definitely have to take and go back and rewatch that. I
yeah,
won't lie. This past week's been busy. Um, I had 2 days off from work, so that puts a strain on things, especially having to go in earlier and stay later. So
it,
my reading into
it's
everything has not been the way I'd hoped it would have been. So
there's just like I said, there's so much little things like that you read and you're just like, I have question marks going, okay, and what happened? And then you're reading the file and it's like, is that the page that they said is missing because they took the whole page out? Or is it okay? They just stuck a pin in it and just moved on and never went back to circle things. I don't
yeah,
agree with some of the methods that they did either. I don't agree with the task force, releasing that the murders had changed. I mean, I get like you're watching people, so you're trying to, I guess, if you put a blurb out that see who slips up, maybe possibly, but when you start leaking stuff, to
especially
me, it's like,
like leaking Williams' name, address, and home phone number. That
Exactly.
honestly, right there, should have had any trial
Mm-hmm.
dismissed in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's like they almost wanted an uprising of
Yeah,
sorts. You know.
they wanted to cause trouble for him that did not come.
Yep. Yep.
It's like we're going to put all this out here, so he is your entire focus right here.
It just
And at that point, I probably would have drove up to the mayor's house with my parade behind me too.
uh, why not? At that point, if at that point you're following me everywhere I go. Everybody and their mother calls my house now. My poor parents, and that's why I say also too. I say his poor parents in this. Um, and the one thing that I found was really strange that I can't find any information on other than that they do mention it in that documentary, and I was briefly going through the file looking for it. I mean, they're in the house collecting evidence, and they come across these Polaroids that he has, pictures that he has of local boys, and the father rips it right out of the cop's hand. I'm like, so is daddy in on this too? Because that to me is awful suspicious. Why? And you're burning them with your dad in your backyard.
Or was Daddy actually the culprit, and you were
And
just
some,
cleaning up the
and some,
mess?
yep. Or were they in on it together?
Yeah,
Because he loved his father oh so much. I do remember in the beginning of it, they briefly talk about their relationships. Well, like his mother, he loved his mother, but he really loved his dad. So I don't know. Just like I
so many
said,
questions, so many
so many
questions that
questions,
we probably won't
and
even find answers to, but we'll at
exactly.
least let you know what we find because that's what we do. Um, I know it's probably throwing people off, and that's why we haven't had as many people watching tonight because of the different night. I did announce it, but it was late in the week, so I don't know how many people actually got to see the announcement. It is what it is. We still appreciate you watching, no matter when you watch this, and leave comments and let us know what you think. But
Yep, because I mean the files
another
are there.
interesting point is the fact that his quote unquote music label was called Gemini.
Well, the group was Gemini. I
Yeah, his
forget what the
music.
label was, but his music group. But they actually, in that documentary, they actually talked to one of, I guess, the boys in the band, and he goes, "I don't understand why they say this about him. Never felt so safe and wanted to be around somebody, and he was so caring and so loving. I mean, was he nerdy and was he geeky? Yes, but he was a nice guy, and he actually sings a song that I guess that he helped write with them
Yeah,
on this kid is legit. Like I'm looking at the camera and I'm going, oh, you're just joking around. Like no, you're gonna say no. Well, he's this and this, but because there's always that. Oh, there's that, but that one time, but he couldn't. He was like a gold star friend of his.
yeah.
Like he just looked up to him as a hero in the neighborhood. I mean, I do like we'll get towards it, but this will be towards the end. I mean, I got six things, that could be possible connections and or things that were behind the scenes that are the real reason why this happened the way that it did. I've always had these six, so we'll see as I dig through the files more and more. A couple of them a little outlandish, A little bit, a little bit,
Yeah.
but
So I was looking at the zodiac. So you know,
exactly, exactly.
who doesn't like a little outlandish sometimes? We are
You know,
actually drawing
I mean,
closer on our hour.
I mean, if the FBI were going to go swing for the fences and say that it was the Zodiac killer or possible, shit, why not? Anything's up for grabs at that point.
It was the Sasquatch. It was that damn Sasquatch. That's who it was. Hi, Liz. How are you, Liz? Miss Liz Millen. Thanks for finding us near the end of the show. Still appreciate you coming on. Hope you
Hmm.
rewatch this. Um, we actually share quite a bit more information tonight. Now that Renee's at least had some time to look through the files, I'm still working through them.
Yep, I'm still working through.
And as
Like I,
always, we are here on Parapost. We are here on Global Ghost Hunt, Raven Hollow Productions. Um, greatly appreciate the chance to take and share it out and all that.
yes,
Global Ghost Hunt
but
is this October 16th through the 26th. It is free, so sign your team up, come investigate with us. It's a fun time. Renee got to investigate with me year before last, and we were at
yes,
Bobby Mackey's live. That was such a great time. I'm glad we got to do that before they closed the doors.
agreed.
Um,
Bucket list checked off.
yeah, that was a night. That was an investigation to go back and look at. Um,
Yes,
and this year, like I said, it's free. So sign your teams up. If we get more than enough, we're going to add 4 extra days at least.
go do it, everybody. Go do it. It's great to watch, especially all the teams from around the world. Correct, right?
Yeah, yeah. Last
So,
year we had a team from yes, Liz. I'm on YouTube as well under Raven Hollow Productions, and of course my um, paranormal team, which is Newsom Paranormal. They're both on YouTube. And Thursday nights, you can usually catch me on with Spirit Mechanics as we do Thursday night lives, and the last Thursday of the month is Tarot Night. Um, this past Friday, they did Scarefest TV for Scarefest coming October. They announced the American, um, no, not American Horror Story, Nightmare on Elm Street reunion for the third movie.
dream, dream warriors.
Yes, for the Dream Warriors. They
Yeah, I'm
had
kind of.
5 announcements Friday night.
Yeah, and then to go try and get tickets is man, oh man.
Yeah,
They're gonna have to have that full building soon. They're
yeah,
really gonna have to.
because they had already announced Nancy from the original Nightmare on Elm Street, and they announced Freddy Krueger himself, Robert Englund, coming.
Yep.
So that is all exciting, and I can't wait. At least to be in the presence of Mr. England because he's such an icon. I grew up with those
Oh.
movies, like a lot of
Yep.
us horror fans have.
Hmm.
There's just something about Freddy and listening to his laugh that makes me giggle. Um,
That explains a lot. Yeah.
it sure does. It sure does. But no, most
Oh,
of these actors are phenomenal people, and they're always worth the trip to take and come see. I've met some of them that are just complete ladies and gentlemen, and they're just down to earth because they're people. They're people. They just got to be in films that made them known worldwide,
hmm.
and they're still just some of the nicest people ever. So, yes.
Oh yeah, V.
Oh, yeah,
A lot of
definitely.
people forget that he's in V. That's right.
Mr. Aaron Hoffman's in the crowd. That is his show called The Weird Show. If you like conspiracies, definitely go over and check it out on Parapost. Um, he deep dives he's not out to play. He's not out no, to
No,
make friends either. Um, I still
exactly.
love you, Aaron. I still love you. Um,
I love watching that show, man. Love watching it.
it's a great show. He does his research on things, and he really starts digging in. And
Hmm.
like I said, it doesn't always bring the friendliest vibes for him, but he's being true to himself with that show, and he also had a little side skit in it where he talked about being a carny because he used to work for carnivals. So it's fascinating
It
because he
sure is.
brought in a friend and stuff that he used to work with, and it was a great small series in that show. So everybody give that weird show a check on Facebook, on YouTube, all that good stuff. I think he's on
Yes,
Rumble too. Is that right,
I believe
Aaron?
so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe so.
As he says, who needs friends?
He's
You
friends.
need friends to do stuff like this for you, sir. Do you understand me, sir? He's also a lot of fun to play Phasmophobia with. Yep, he's on Rumble as well. Um, he can tell you some stories about playing Phasmophobia with me. If you don't know what that is a ghost hunting game where you are the investigator. You have to find the ghost before the ghost can end your turn on the
Make you
game.
a ghost.
Yep,
Well, make,
make
make
you a
for the ghost
ghost.
to be a ghost. I guess is the best way
And
to put it.
I've been known to run around with the haunted objects in the game. Yeah, until Matt gets an idea, then it goes downhill. Because I don't
Oh
even
boy.
warn people. I just grab the haunted object, run through the house, and activate it,
Of course you
and,
would.
and start running past my teammates. So it's that kind of a
It's a great
situation.
time to watch Raymond play that. I will say, I will agree. Yes,
it,
quite entertaining.
it is entertaining when we get together and actually get to play together. So hopefully we can do that soon. I know our schedules have all been crazy. I know mine has, but hopefully soon because I really am miss that opportunity to just let loose and play the game with everybody. Uh, do you have anything you would like to add, Miss Renee?
No, we're good.
No.
No.
Okay. Well, I'll add one more in there. Um, well, actually, a couple. Keep an eye out for Matt Barron's new show with his wife. It should be popping up on Paranormal Consultant here pretty soon on Facebook and on YouTube. Um, I think it's supposed to be called Creepy Conspiracies. I know it's hard to take and get their schedules together too because of Mackenzie's work schedule, which I understand. And also, don't forget to check out the Otter's Den with Mr. Keith Ottersberg. It's usually on Monday
Yeah.
nights at 8 p.m.
Monday night.
And on
I think to,
Tuesdays, you can catch Stephen Tyree and sometimes Miss Patricia Kraft on The Missing Elements as they take and do their respective shows, either individually or together. We usually share those out on Ravens Hollow Production as well. I asked Mr. Tyree, he's okay with it. So, same thing with Spirit Mechanics. I asked Steve, he's okay with it. So, I'm sharing things out to get people's attention. That way they can watch. Um, who knows? I might get a few others. I might get an Aldersburg soon. I'm trying. But
uh,
of course,
not
until
as
next
far as
week or whenever we decide that we can get back together, it should be Monday night. We should be back to normal times. I just have to see what my work schedule is coming up this week. I don't have it yet. Um, and I'll take and post that for everybody to come in and watch. And you come hang out with us for AtKid Part 3 as we continue our search into this matter because I'm kind of hooked and I'm not going to be good until I'm done with it. So
exactly.
you all had to suffer with me. I apologize. No, I don't. I'm kidding. Go fuck yourselves.
Yes, and eventually, when we get through all of our little findings, yes, we will talk about each individual because that's how I like each individual victim, so their names are mentioned, so they're not forgotten.
Yes.
We will get to that. I
And
promise. We'll care about that.
which I had an idea tossed out to me earlier and stuff, and I'll talk to you about that one in the background.
Mm-hmm.
We might actually get to that case eventually too, because it actually sounds like it could be a lot of fun depending on what we can find on it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So until next week, we thank you all. We thank everybody who watches this after. Have a good night.
Yes. Have a good night.
Stay safe out there. Don't get any white fans. They give you the candy first.
Don't go looking for puppies.
You got to hear the barking first to make sure it's an actual animal. Um,
Exactly.
uh, unless they say for ghost hunting equipment, then just jump straight in. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm 100% joking. Don't get any strangers' vehicles.
Stranger danger is a thing. If you have a password,
Stranger
remember your
danger is
password.
a thing. Remember your password.
If
Remember
you
your
have a
safe
password,
word too.
I had
Um,
I had a password.
a password or a safe word? Do I need to ask Kelly?
No. Safe word is different. Password. Password was I was able to go with you if you knew my password.
Fair, free alcohol.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, that might be. Yeah.
But
Shit, why not?
anyway, you all have a great night. Have a great night. Enjoy your Super Bowl. Your team is playing. Somebody wins because I'm sure somebody will. I'm just not
I'm sure.
watching. I've got a homework summit to do after this. So, good night. And thank you for
Night.
watching The Sins and Cemeteries.